was what I was saying is that there's a bunch of files here, so I'm gonna look here to see if I can find the network file. Maybe I'll look at the basic usage there. Maybe I'm not understanding really well what this GitHub is, this repository. I need to know exactly what is the command for to find the function definitions on VS Code. It's really helpful. Don't understand what is export really well. Oh, maybe it's this one. Found it. I don't know why the extension is .d though. So this is the constructor. Maybe this is not the file, it's just the explanation. Declaration file. Header file founding C, C++. So this is not really the file that contains the object, it's just the declaration of each thing. Must be on another folder or this file is huge as well. And this is probably not JavaScript, plain JavaScript. It's probably some other technology like TypeScript or Angular that I'm not really familiar with. But I can see that there are things that are similar to C++. And this one I did it. It's just hard to understand what each file is meant to be. We should do have to do stuff. I just want to find the declaration of the object itself at that vis dot network. Suspect is not gonna be on this file, but vis network. Yeah, but this is just probably referring to HTML. So I think it might be a subclass of the vis class because of the way that it is written in the declaration, but I'm not sure that's the case. No, so here is network options. Making globals. So it's line 39,000. Just wanna see if I can. It's probably this file. Thing is, I'm not sure how I can go. Sure where this is pointing to. If I... Oh, so it's the same file? I think I've been through this, if I'm not mistaken. Event listeners. I think all of this is part of the class that was declared up there. But I'm not quite sure. There's another file I wanted to open here. A roll up. Doesn't seem to have anything there. I don't understand what the difference is between this folder and this folder. It seems like it's two different versions of the network. Just because of the name, if I was going off by the name, I would guess that this is the one that is used. And this is another one. Here I think it's just the files with the explanation, the HTML. Now maybe it's here. Network.js. I think is exactly the same thing that I was looking at in the other file. Here's probably the physics address. I guess this is just the construction of the node itself, and it doesn't have. It's not the interaction thing. Just getting myself more familiar with the functions. I don't think I'm gonna have to do anything related to most of these things, but probably have to understand at least something. At least get the gist of how it works. Because I think the only thing I'm gonna be interacting with is the network object itself and the methods. Yeah, so from all these files, the ones that seems should be the network is this standalone stuff. The other ones doesn't. The node modules can't be because probably stuff from npm. Documentation is just docs. Yeah, there are 3 different folders that have pretty much the same files. If I open this one, not sure if there's any difference between them, or I think here is just the namespaces as the Stack Overflow thing said for the JavaScript files. It's probably not in these declarations. Yeah, it says declarations. So I'm gonna go with this standalone stuff. I'm gonna assume is this one, the official one that has the file, that has the stuff that I'm looking for. Interesting. So every node and edge has indices that are used when the node is visible, and when it's not visible, it uses this one. I think it maintains the nodes, but it's using the indices to capture in the canvas. At least that's what I think is happening now. Not sure what a emitter is. Not sure if it's something special. I think the official JavaScript documentation is this stuff, but I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna do the same thing that I did for Python in JavaScript now, which is to just explore these libraries, and I think that's the way that I learned the most about Python. I'm gonna use this project to do that. So you learn a lot more by reviewing stuff that people that knew what they're doing did. Yeah, I'm still on the phase in JavaScript where I'm kind of lost. I remember being like that in the beginning in Python. So it's pretty much an intermediate area. Oh, that's the official thing, probably. Mm. Just pretty much something that manages events, event listeners. Let's keep going on the code here. So here's just binding this stuff to the meter and initializing these event listeners as functions. If I press this, so this is the libraries network modules. And I'm starting to think that the stuff that I actually want is on this lib here. How can I go? This is VisJS, Vis network lib, which is this lib. Oh, physics engines. It's already here. Because the class might be declared here and used on the other one. The network class. This was the page that I was before, I think. Interaction handler. Didn't meant to. I can also do it like this. So I think this is the class that I have to change. That's what it seems like. But I don't understand. Maybe the network is the parent class and the interaction is the subclass. But I don't understand how the options, if that's the case, how the options become. I think I'll just read all of these files here. Physics shouldn't be the file that I'm looking for because I think the interaction and the physics is separated. I think I'm gonna close this. Look at these ones first. Yeah, so probably this is the correct file. Network prototype.set options. Also have to study prototype because don't understand really well. So this is the declaration of the class probably. So this ensures that you're using the neutral make the thing. I guess it's using prototype because this is a child of the vis class. But then how can I find the vis class? Maybe I need to study more class inheritance and prototypes, JavaScript. Hmm. Just trying to see if there are any files over here. So I guess each one of these is a file in the modules here. Selection handler handles the stuff that I want. Let me just see something. Lib network. Oh, it's the same file? Oh, it's, yeah, this definition. So I should apply this to here. This is the folder. Yeah, so it's probably this class. So the class is created in this file, and then here it creates an instance of the class. I think that's what's going on here. And the same thing with the interaction. So probably the files that I'm gonna have to do stuff is this interaction handler and selection handler. I have to see if I can, if there's a way to access this selection handler and assign it to something new. And then I can assign this to, maybe I'm not sure if this is the best way, but the way that I'm thinking is creating the function in Python as I pass there and pass in inside of the interactions stuff, but pass it as a function instead of as a Boolean value. And then have that function replace this one using Jinja. Yeah, I think the one that I need is both the interaction and selection handler. Maybe both, because I would also like to create keys that by, for example, by pressing G or T on the keyboard, the view goes to the node, to a specific node, or to a selected node. So I can navigate with the keyboard. That would be interesting. So maybe I should also, it's probably this file here. Open this one. Yeah, class view. I think I'm gonna open the thing a little bit. Let's see what's node handler. It's also modules. It's probably one of this. Yeah, here. So that seems to be the structure here. You have all the methods that it's gonna use on these modules, and then on the network class, which is the class that has all of them, it's creating an instance inside of the network. Let me see something in here. A new vis.network. But maybe it's just because of the way that is declared here. That's the thing that I'm not sure about, is that it seems to be just network on the project, but maybe when you use the link, when you use it through the link and not the project, then the declaration is slightly different. Here's vis data set as well. This is just the argument or the name of the function. It's coming up. How is called? How is it called here? If it's coming, oh, it's probably from another file in declarations. I'm not really sure if this is only JavaScript or if the project is built. Maybe it has on the GitHub the languages, TypeScript. So that's probably the thing there. That's why there is that those declaration files. So here is probably declaring all the options. Render default options in the interaction group. So this is an event, the onChange. This body.emitter.emit activate. So I need to understand better what's this emitter. Not sure if it's from JavaScript or it's probably just like an event listener. It's slightly different. Seems to be something from Node.js. It's very similar to C++, the way that they are writing here. To put this stuff here inside of the argument. Also have to reveal this as own property. I think this is a meter that allows you to set custom events. Maybe that's what's going on. or prototype. And these are the things that I have to review. And also JavaScript class inheritance. I'm gonna study this later after I finish reading this file and looking at the other ones. So this is interesting. Final. I'm not sure if this clustering is applied every time that the network has a lot of nodes, or just if you specify something. So from what I understand, when the clustering is applied, you can have several different arrays containing different nodes to optimize the canvas performance. I'm trying to make sense of how does it work when you pass the object. And what is going on here? That should be on the this dot set options part that it changes. But how does it do that? Start simulation, or this physics start simulation apply arguments. So these are the ones that get activated in the beginning. This can be interesting as well. Maybe these functions are the ones that get activated when you click on them, on the nodes. Maybe not. And so this is it. Export default network. I still don't understand really well what's going on. Yeah, it should be on this thing here. Data options. Yes, up there. So this should be the function that sets the options as it says there. No, this set options, apply options. Maybe it's even earlier. It just shows 198. Where is these options? Yeah, is the argument that the network receives. But why is it making equal an empty object? Object.assign also need to look at. I think I'm gonna take a look at the other files. No? I'm definitely at some point gonna try to just do different stuff and see what happens, but I want to make sure, I want to study a lot more before that. So I don't have uh, not useless attempts, but I don't think I know enough already to try to build something. Just see what happens in the page. Because I still don't understand really well how it's being constructed once it loads. And so I guess it initializes as an empty object there, but then it sets to the argument here after that. So it makes an instance of options equals to this, but this is not related to this yet. Then down there it passes this one into this. So it replaces this with the argument that was given for the options. Luckily, it's not that big of a file, just 700 lines. So it's not that hard to go through it. Then here is just initializing everything, all the other files, the users should build the canvas and the other stuff. And I think all of these are things that were declared in the declarations files. to create an instance of them initially. What is this create here? Create HTML. So in some canvas, the canvas file. No, this file probably, yeah, it has all the events. This is the canvas file. This is the one that was initialized there before. Also here is this one. I don't understand how it can be declared here and done here. Maybe it's because it's not really being called there. It's just inside of the function scope. So when it finds that, then it goes to the global scope to find it. Because here is the end of the declaration of the network. So if there is no options, it makes it undefined. If it's not undefined, you're found. Later dot validate options, all options. Don't understand what this is really well. Also, this is the show button stuff. And this is probably the argument. Yeah, this one. And what is this validator? Probably says on the declarations. But I don't understand really well what is this. No, sir, it's not supposed to have validators, whatever that is. Oh, there's a typo here. Hmm. Layout engine set options. It's probably another file. Oh, it's in declarations. Yeah, so options is a nested object containing the topics there: direction, physics, layout, and some other ones. Yeah, so options is the object that contains all these other objects with the information for each one. I don't understand what it means by globals here. Are on globals? Where is the globals? Global scope. It probably just means that is declared up there outside of the definition. Yeah. And this is still in the definition. No, it's import all options from options. No, so it's here. But this is the just declaration, I guess. It should be on the root of this folder here. That's the only file that I see with options. Hmm. Also, here is being declared as Boolean. So I guess on this object itself, it only specifies if you're gonna activate the file or not. So if it's true, then it goes through the class of the file. And if it's false, then it doesn't show. but it's hard to understand how exactly this information is, where the function is for each thing. But I think that file is just a declaration. So it's like similar to C++ where you have the header file, like they said on Stack Overflow, where you just declare each thing on the header file, but the actual function or classes is in another place. So I guess is these files here. And here just calling the object that he declared up there, I think. Yeah, here. And it's just setting that object to the options. It's a little bit confusing. Guess I'm gonna look at these files now. We start from this one. I guess one thing I can try is let me go back up to call on the Jinja 2 template. Where is it? Here. I can just put the same method for accessing the network, and then I can try to call it by using dot and one of these methods here. And this is probably gonna access the file here. And this is just creating the constructor here with all the event listeners. Making body equals body, canvas equals canvas. Then creating new, it's probably on the declaration files, this stuff. It's on other file components. Object, I guess this is from TypeScript, maybe. I never seen this before on JavaScript. This add parameter. Or maybe it works just like a decorator, maybe. It seems like it's the attributes of the class. body canvas, and selection handler, which are declared here in the constructor for each instance. Bind the events from hammer to functions in this object. So on top, on tap, on touch, on double tap. I guess that's another thing that I have to see what each of these event listeners does. Most of them are quite intuitive, but sometimes I forget. I'll look at that later. So on tap, on touch, on double tap, on hold, drag start, drag end, mouse wheel, pinch, mouse move, release, on context. Oh, so here's the default options, which are exactly the same in Python on the PyVis file. Yeah, the challenge here is gonna be how the hell I'm gonna change the function, because it doesn't even seem that, in my mind, before I started reading these files, I was thinking that each one would be attached to an event listener, and then the event listener would trigger a function, and that function would be the thing that I would try to modify to do whatever I want to do. But it seems to hear from here that just binding event listeners, and here's just a true or false value in this thing. But it must be activating functions, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Because the computer doesn't understand drag nodes, and so that should be explicit somewhere, the function that does that. It's just, maybe it's on another file. I always forget, that's different. Don't understand what this is, you know. Maybe this one. So this is on declarations. Also, keyboard is declared that there. I forgot. It's here, keyboard. So this gets the mouse, I guess. Oh, so this is the select node. Oh, so I think it is. I think I'm getting it now. Because it binded that on the constructor. Ah. So it's binding all these functions in the constructor to these event listeners. And now I'm gonna get to the functions. Now it's starting to make more sense. So now but the values in fields. Let me see if this is declared there. And this is not. Or maybe it doesn't seem to be attached to any of this. Oh, it's here. So it's binding it here to this body dot functions dot get pointer. This dot body is equal to body. And this gets the position of the pointer. What is touch? Oh, it's the argument. So touch is probably the event. But still, maybe it's a standard thing from TypeScript that I'm not sure. Your body dot functions dot get pointer. Or won't touch. Oh, but then, yeah, it's this function here. Yeah, this is not this, but I think this is probably some, because this is equal to the other thing on the top of this page that is attached to the body dot functions dot get pointer. So I think that function is probably something from TypeScript where it triggers an event listener, and then that the argument is the position of the mouse, I guess. And then this is returning the XY coordinates in the absolute left and top in relationship to the canvas. I assume that's what's happening here. I start a touch gesture, start a pointer. And then it calls this function on this when it touches by using the event again. Maybe just declare it in other files that function get pointer stuff in the top of this file. Then on tap is to handle select on unselect event. So it gets the pointer again. Multi select this dot selection dot handler dot options dot multi select. Commit and emit. So selection handler is the other folder, the other file. So I guess these are methods of this file here. Let me just do this. Control F. Commit and emit is declared here. As always, it's a lot harder than you think it's gonna be in the beginning. Then it activates this function from the same file. Generate click event pointer. So this is the event listener that happens when you select the node, which triggers this function on this file here. So this file probably contains the stuff that is supposed to happen. Because I know you can change through the options what happens through the nodes and edges just by modifying the values there to true or false. The question is, would I be able to bind these events to a Python function? Yeah, I think I would have to. The best way is probably to try to access this manually through Jinja. These event listeners here and these files. And then put. Yeah, but I'm not sure if that's gonna work. At least I understand a lot better now what's happening than I did in the beginning. Yeah, so this is what's happening. This just declares all the event listeners to be handled by this other file. Oh, I think I remember now what this object dot assign is. It makes a copy of the whatever object. It goes through this and makes a copy based on this. It's something like that. I remember there was a free code camp challenge about this that I got quite a little bit confused by. Create an array to select the nodes, their original location and status. The position of all selected nodes. So this is declared here. And this is the on drag event. I need to understand what those events are. I think I'm gonna let me see how many lines this file has. A little bit under 1,000. I, I think I understand the logic so far. I'm just trying to think. What is confusing is the bridge between Python and JavaScript. That's where it gets it's a little bit unclear still how I'm gonna achieve that. Maybe I can create a new one instead of just modifying the ones that exist. Yeah, but I don't think that would work. It's probably better to just change the interaction one. The other thing that I'm thinking about is if there is a way to not do it with these folders, but do it through the CDN stuff, the source. So I'm trying to think about how am I gonna do if I do it that way. Because if I can do it that way, it's better because then I don't need to have all these files. But then I just don't see a way to change the function that is triggered on the event listener. Yeah, that's the thing I'm trying to understand. How to manipulate the canvas with Python. That's the problem. I'm gonna have to code in either TypeScript or JavaScript the functions that are the things that I want. It has to be a combination of both because yeah, the animation through the graph has to be done through the JavaScript stuff. But then the extra functionality probably can be done with Python. No, actually, I have to see how can I trigger, how can I run a Python function through an event listener. That's the thing that I have to investigate. I think that's the thing that I'm kind of stuck at. I'm, that I'm confused because yeah, there must be a way because time you do something, it's gonna trigger an event listener, and then that event listener is gonna run a function. So if I can just change the functions, but then I probably won't be able to change it just if I use CDN because I have to change the source code of the VisJS part, which is this selection handler file here. And I'm not sure if there's a way to directly modify this by accessing the network class. I wonder if I can get in contact with the people that build this and talk to them about this. Maybe they would be interested in the stuff that I'm doing. I think this is just declaration stuff. Module selection. Oh, it's probably this folder. Accumulator, yeah, so it's just declaration. Yes, this comes later. The topmost clicked item should be the first in the array. Also note that selected nodes are disregarded here. Is normally displayed on top. I wonder if we can get the definition inside of here for this get items on point. It doesn't work. I think the time is done. So I'm probably gonna continue this tomorrow. I have other things to do off stream. But my plan here is to just, I think I'm gonna spend more time studying these files because I don't think it's worth it yet to start trying to do stuff on the template on the Python side, or you should change the template, the Jinja template, and the interaction in the PyVis function. But that so far is my idea. Is I should make changes on the template and in the PyVis source code until I'm able to figure out a way to change the event listeners here in these files to activate any Python function that I want. I think that's the goal. Because I want to find a way that is going to be versatile depending on whatever thing that I want to do. So I want to be able to activate any function that I want based on the nodes and not, and also I think this is on the Python side, and the JavaScript side, then I would like to do, I want to try to change the functionality of the keyboards of the arrows for navigating between nodes instead of uh, changing the canvas like on a every time I press, kind of like a video game where you go from shot to shot. Uh, I want to be able to navigate the nodes that way, which seems a lot more efficient. Because sometimes when I'm doing this, when I'm going from node to node and I'm trying to analyze, there's a big space between them, and then I have to keep doing this. And if I could just press the arrow keys to navigate, it would be a lot better. And to do that, I would have to be able to understand how these access the node IDs and yeah, how the node information is stored and the edges informations are stored here, which seems like it's going to be quite hard. This is on the JS part, and then on the Python part, I would like to add event listeners to run any function that I want in Python based on the nodes. That would be cool as well. So if I can have something like this where, but instead of these functions that it has here, once I turn this on, for example, the keyboard, then I would be able to press V and activate the simulation of the execution of the script, let's say, where it changes the color of the nodes based on the flow of the script, and then I can do a bunch of other stuff with that. But yeah, you would have to be something that allows me to trigger the event listener to whatever Python script or Python scripts that I want to run. So that's the core, I think, figuring out how to modify the event listeners and the functions that are triggered by them by studying these files. And it's probably gonna take me some time, but I think it's worth it. So I'll probably come back tomorrow. So see you.